Joined now from the BBC's office in Selkirk by Jeremy Purvis, who played a leading role in constructing the Lib Dem manifesto. Well, Jeremy Purvis, of course, you could have been in the last Scottish administration with the SNP, couldn't you? Except you made a big issue of not wanting a referendum on independence. Have you changed your mind on that?
No, absolutely not.
Right, so you would see that as a bottom line, that you would not be a part of any administration which insisted on having a referendum on independence?
We believe that independence would be bad for Scotland, and we don't believe that there should be any time during the lifetime of the next Parliament of distracted at looking at a referendum. There was too much time over the last 4 years in that distraction, and the manifesto that we launched today, focusing on jobs in the company that's had a tough time during the recession, but wants the next Parliament and next ministers in the next government to be absolutely focused on jobs, on education, on skills, and on local services. They don't want them to be distracted by a referendum on separation. OK,
I'm just trying to help John Farquhar Munro with his problem. But sadly, it looks from what you're saying as if the only way that you're going to get Alex Salmond as the next First Minister is in fact to vote SNP.
The way to have support for our economy, for our services, is to start the implementation of the manifesto that we launched today, Gordon. That is our absolute focus. We are not distracted by aspects of the other parties, nor should we be distracted by independence, because it would be damaging for the business in the borders, it would be damaging for all of Scotland. And that is why our manifesto is absolutely focused on making sure that we have immediate plans for supporting businesses, we can make long-term investment choices for the benefit of the country, and we can support the people who are still worried about their jobs. They want their best, the best schools in their areas, and they also want fairness in later life, and that is our absolute focus.
So your advice to Liberal Democrat members would be they should want Tavish Scott as the next First Minister?
I would love to see a Scottish administration led by Tavish Scott. Our activists and
unfortunately, you failed to make that clear before the campaign started.
But our campaign and the manifesto and the policies that Tavish is leading the party on is driven of the areas that I've just outlined to you. There is no dubiety with that at all, and that is why we are working very hard in our areas, and we have presented both a radical but also a practical set of proposals in our manifesto today. Now,
this £1.5 billion that you want to raise by, in effect, securitising the debt of Scottish Water, John Swinney, from the SNP, the Finance Minister in the last government, he says that won't work because if you do that, the Treasury in London will just take the money.
Well, he's got a number of things wrong with his criticisms today, and it seems very odd that he has completely ignored the advice of two of his advisory bodies that he had, an independent budget report as well as the Scottish Futures Trust. And we've spoken to them both as well as to Scottish Water directly, and we are absolutely clear that the process that we've outlined will secure a receipt. Unfortunately, the SNP have been confused with, they think that the proposals are a sale of the assets of Scottish Water. They are not. And I think that is their criticism, and unfortunately
so
they have got it considerably
just to be
wrong.
Clear, your argument is that because you are securitising the debt and not selling the company, then it would not be covered by the desire of the UK government to receive receipts which are made from selling off public assets.
Our proposal, which has been outlined in the two bodies that I mentioned, effectively makes Scottish Water into a public benefit corporation for the benefit of the people of Scotland. There are no shareholders, there's no private profit, there's no profit at all, because any benefit that comes from the efficient running of that is kept within the company, and it means that there are reduced bills for the customers. But what that body would be able to do is simply to pay back the debt that it owes both to the Treasury and, well, to the Scottish budget.
Right.
There's no asset sale and there's no receipt that goes to the Treasury that John Swinney had said.
Right. So there is some ambiguity, actually, in the documentation that the UK government have issued in this. But, I mean, anyway, presumably you've cleared this with the Treasury, right?
We've certainly had discussions with ministers in the UK government, of course, and
they've
similarly
said
discussions with Scottish Water. Well, they've said that they would work with whoever is the government in taking forward the proposals that we would like to see delivered.
Hang on a second. You are the government of the United Kingdom. Have you got an understanding with the Treasury that if you were in a position to implement your proposals, that they would not ask for the money back?
Well, Gordon, we would actually be giving the money back to the Treasury that had been borrowed from the Treasury. There is no kind of clawback or anything like that, because Scottish Water would repay its debts. There is an element that would be repaid to the Treasury, and there's an element that would be repaid to the Scottish budget. The lion's share,
I understand that, but the point is that there would be an immediate amount of money raised, of which you would give some to the Treasury. The SNP's argument is the Treasury would ask for the whole lot. I'm asking you, given that the Liberal Democrats are the UK government, I am assuming you have some sort of memorandum of understanding from George Osborne and Danny Alexander agreeing that if you should implement this, they would not want the money up front, and that therefore you would have your £1.5 billion to spend. Is that the case or not?
There's no way, Gordon, that the Treasury would have money repaid to it that it hadn't lent in the first place.
I'm sorry, I'm asking you a different question. You're answering a theoretical question. I'm just asking you a practical question. All I'm saying is, given that you are the UK government, and given that your entire manifesto is based around this, have you got an agreement from the Treasury, from George Osborne and Danny Alexander and their colleagues, that should this happen, they will not do as the current Finance Minister in Scotland suggests and demand that £1.5 billion? Have you got an agreement with them they will not do that?
They will not do with what John Swinney has said, because that is not the proposal. Now, you've asked me a theoretical question, but I'll give you the direct answer with regards to what the Treasury would do if this proposal is put forward, because we have precedent within the UK of Welsh Water, as well as there's precedent when Scottish bodies repay Treasury debt. It happens all the time. There's not an issue with regards to what George Osborne or Danny Alexander have on that, because the debt is repaid. Where there are aspects of discussions that would have to take place, as any other relationship between a Scottish and Treasury relationship, is over the sequencing of when the bonds would be issued by Scottish Water, how it wishes those to be geared, and all of those aspects, both of those aspects, are rehearsed in the Scottish Futures Trust document that we studied very closely, which now the SNP seems to disown.
Let's stop this. I just want to be very clear in this. There is no piece of paper saying, "Dear Jeremy, that's fine, you can have your £1.5 billion, yours sincerely, George and Danny."
The Treasury would respond to what a Scottish Government and Scottish Parliament decide for Scottish Water.
Okay,
there is no doubt.
All right, we're not getting
anywhere. There's no doubt about our view about what the Treasury. Well, there's no doubt about our view of what the Treasury would have the position on, Gordon, and there's no doubt at all that what the SNP have said are wrong.
Yeah, the only point I'm making to you is that you are the UK government. If you come out with a manifesto which is entirely based on £1.5 billion, and you haven't gone to your own colleagues in the government and made sure it's all right in advance, that doesn't seem like a very responsible way to run a campaign.
Is your argument, Gordon, or is your position that if there are Liberal Democrats in a Scottish government, then there is no distinction between the UK and the Scottish government?
No, what I'm saying to you is that the Liberal Democrats are in government in London. It seems extraordinary that you haven't gone to them and said, we're thinking of doing this, is that all right? The SNP, who've been running the place for the last few years, say it's not. Can you just assure us that's fine?
I've outlined more than 3 times to you, Gordon, that what we are proposing is fully within the process of what the Treasury would operate. There is no dubiety of that at all. I was simply questioning whether or not you believe that if the Liberal Democrat was in an administration in the Scottish government, whether or not the Scottish government and the UK government would be one and the same thing. I think you've confirmed that they wouldn't be.
I wasn't suggesting that for one second. Look, we're out of time. Bottom line, you've given me one. You won't have an independence referendum. Anything else you'd like to volunteer?
Volunteer for
a bottom line that you would not agree to go into a government with, that's in your a single policy that's in that manifesto that you wouldn't do a neck clegg with.
Well, the approach in this year for this campaign is the identical approach that we've had in all the elections since devolution, that we've put forward a manifesto. We believe that they are the right priorities for Scotland, for having the immediate action to support jobs and long-term investments for our services and for our economy. The more votes that go to Liberal Democrats, and the more Liberal Democrats that are elected on May the 5th, there is a better chance of this manifesto being implemented. And we've proven, when people said that it would be impossible to withdraw fees or long-term care of the elderly, we've proved that we can act on those policies.
All right, Jeremy Purvis, Luke, thank you very much indeed.